Yo, what up, everyone? Tay here. So I just got back from watching Deadpool and Wolverine opening night Thursday in the theaters, and I figured I better come home and do a non-spoiler review to talk about what I can talk about without getting into spoilers of just how crazy and fun this movie was. But like I said, this will be a non-spoiler review. However, I am going to reference a few things that were in the trailers. So if it was something in the trailers that's already been spoiled, then I'm considering that fair game. So just so you know. And then real quick, before we get into it, just in case you missed it, I did post a 20-minute video yesterday talking about Phase 6 and Phase 7 and all of the crazy reveals we could get at Comic-Con this Saturday. So definitely check out that video in case you missed it. And then since I just posted that video, there won't be any super thanks questions at the end of today's video, but I will get into all of those super thanks in the next video that I will be posting later this weekend after we've heard all of the big announcements at Comic-Con. So yeah, just wanted to mention that real quick, and that if you would like to leave a super thanks with a question or a comment on this video, that those are always greatly appreciated, and that I will read and respond to those in the next video, along with any super thanks from yesterday's video. But anyways, let's get into it and talk about this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. So first off, just right off the bat, I love this movie because just like the past Deadpool movies, it's just fun. Like, it's just so much fun to watch. Now, that doesn't mean that it's perfect because there were some complaints that I have, but those complaints are very small compared to just how fun and entertaining the movie is. It's incredibly fast-paced, and it kind of left me feeling like I had a major caffeine rush, where when the movie was over, I was incredibly hyped up for about a half hour afterwards, and then I just had this huge crash and felt exhausted, and I had to come home and kind of, have a little bit of coffee to get myself up again so I could make this video. So yeah, I loved the movie overall, and if I were to score it on an MCU scale from 1 to 10, where, a movie like Avengers Infinity Wars would be considered a 10, and a movie like Thor Love and Thunder would be considered a 1, I would probably give this movie an 8 out of 10. And I've seen a lot of people online saying this is the best MCU movie since Avengers Endgame, and I think it's kind of hard for me to say if it's necessarily the best, because I would say the best movies that have come out since Avengers Endgame would be Spider-Man No Way Home, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and then this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. And as far as just pure storytelling and writing, it's kind of hard for this movie to beat a movie like Spider-Man No Way Home that was very emotional and had very deep moments and, was just a really good movie overall. But as far as just like pure entertainment value and fun, this movie takes the cake. This is one of the most entertaining, fun comic book movies ever. And this is definitely a really fun theater movie. And that's one of the great things about this, is that I felt like an event-level MCU film that everyone wants to go see in the theater instead of waiting for streaming. And I'm the kind of person that usually would much rather go see a movie on like a Tuesday afternoon in a mostly empty theater just so I can avoid the crowds instead of going to see it opening night, because I usually get annoyed by theater audiences. But there are definitely certain big event movies, like an Avengers movie, for example, that are the exception to that rule, because those are the kind of movies that are a lot of fun seeing in a packed theater with a lot of other people, kind of all enjoying the experience together. And that's definitely how this movie was. I saw it in a theater that was about 90% full, and everyone was all having a blast, laughing and cheering at certain moments. And it is movies like this that do get me a little sentimental for that communal movie theater experience like I remember having as a kid before streaming kind of took over and started killing movie theaters. And really, my favorite thing about this movie is that it's unapologetically made for hardcore comic book nerds and comic book movie nerds. It's not trying to cater to any certain sect of society or certain audiences or the critics. It knows who its fan base is, and it's a movie directly catered to that fan base. So with that, it's obviously full of completely over-the-top fan service, which is often very silly, but it works very well in the context of this movie since it's all coming through the lens of Deadpool and his fourth wall breaking and all the bits we know and expect from a Deadpool movie. And there's this one montage scene that happens early on in the movie that shows like 10 absolutely huge comic book Easter eggs in a row. And for any comic book fan who knows those references, I mean, it might literally be one of the nerdiest scenes in a comic book movie ever. I mean, when I was watching it, I literally felt like I was the embodiment of that Leonardo DiCaprio meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he's pointing at the TV. It's like, oh, I know that reference. I understood that reference. And then another big element of this movie is it's filled with crazy combat and action scenes. And I thought those worked really well because I saw some critics online saying that the fight scenes in this movie sucked and that the CGI was bad. But I didn't find that to be the case. I thought that most of the action sequences in this movie were pretty awesome, and that the CGI, while not always perfect, was definitely way, way better than what we've seen in other recent MCU projects like Thor, Love and Thunder, or The Marvels. I mean, I will say there is one particular fight scene that's filmed to look like a big one-shot, and I will say that a lot of the combat and CGI in that particular scene does look pretty janky, but that was the only part of the movie where anything like that stood out to me. And even in that scene, it's already meant to be kind of a silly and over-the-top moment in the movie, so it still works for the most part. And then we know this is a Deadpool movie, so obviously it's going to be filled with jokes and bits. And definitely the comedy and the jokes in this movie are hilarious and work 95% of the time. But I would say there's, that other 5% where the jokes feel a little forced or they weren't necessary. Because I know something I've said in the past is that my favorite MCU films are the ones that have a more serious tone, like Captain America Winter Soldier or Avengers Infinity War. But there are, of course, certain Marvel projects that should be funny. Like, if you go and see an Ant-Man movie, you know that Ant-Man is going to have a lighter tone and be more comedic than a Captain America movie. And while I do think that Marvel Studios should pull back on putting so much comedy into their movies overall, it's obviously a little bit different with a Deadpool flick. And then definitely another big aspect of this movie is the cameos. And like the rest of the movies, the cameos are just a lot of fun. I mean, of course, some of them are sillier than others, but it all works well because there's a few of them that are really more of supporting roles instead of just cameos. And it's hard to really get into the cameos without getting into spoiler territory, but the cameos and the side characters are definitely a big part of the story, and the whole thing definitely feels like it's just a small taste of what we could get with way bigger characters once we get to Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars. Now, like I said, I did have a few complaints about the movie. It was all small stuff. I didn't think any of it ruined the film, but, I would say that the plot is relatively simple, and I would have liked to have seen a little bit more complexity added when it came to certain plot elements, like stuff with Cassandra Nova and, other elements with the TVA. And yeah, well, there definitely are areas of the movie that I have complaints about or that I would have liked to have seen done differently. It's kind of hard to get into those particular areas without getting into spoiler territory. And honestly, I just don't want to get too negative about it because I am still feeling really good after seeing the movie and I really loved it overall. And we can just leave it at that with this one, and we'll talk about some of those other areas of the movie that I might have a few small complaints with when we get into one of the next videos where we talk about spoilers and all that stuff. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts on the movie. I loved it. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you've seen it, if you liked it, if you didn't, what were your favorite parts, all that stuff. And I will definitely be doing another video very soon where we can get into some of the spoiler stuff that happened, and then I will definitely want to talk about the implications of this movie and what it means for the rest of the multiverse saga and the upcoming Avengers movies. So definitely watch out for that coming soon. And then once the Marvel Studios Hall H panel ends on Saturday night and we get all the new announcements, I will definitely start working on another video talking about all that stuff that I will hopefully be able to get done and uploaded for Sunday morning. So yeah, I'll probably be up all night long on Saturday working on that video, but definitely subscribe to the channel and make sure you have the bell clicked on so you are notified when these upcoming videos come out, because there is going to be so much to talk about over the next few days. So yeah, click the bell so you don't miss that, and please share the video if you liked it, all that stuff. And I will be back soon after Comic-Con talking about all the crazy stuff that's revealed.